Here I am. Hello, everybody. My name is Victoria Hackett. I'm the founder of OutdoorClassrooms.com. I'm thrilled to be here. My session was called Enhance Connectedness Using Mindfulness in Nature. A lot of what I do is I work with educators to help them create, educators and parents actually, to create outdoor spaces that are really used as learning gardens. And through this, I've really found that educators, especially, are really using nature as a tool to find that connectedness and to find mindfulness. And that has been sort of a very hot topic, especially using nature. So again, a lot of what I do is we run a membership community for educators. We have a lot of things that are online and resources. And again, I can field any questions that you have, but I can tell you a little bit about what my session was about or is about. And it's pretty exciting. So again, it's called Enhance Connectedness Using Mindfulness in Nature, and really talking about 6 different kind of elements of that we can incorporate into our daily lives, which is kind of really talking about habits and how we can create these mindfulness habits into our living. So I'm curious if there's anybody out there that is interested in outdoor classrooms, interested in mindfulness. That would be really fun to know and hear. So you can just write that in the chat. So again, just a little bit about me and my background, and how I got into outdoor classrooms. And in the first place, I've always been an educator. Early childhood is my true love, and I have really, when it was as a parent, I was working as a parent, not working as a parent. Being a parent, my kids were at a local elementary school, and they had sort of this very desolate courtyard garden. And I thought, why not make this a space where we could use as an outdoor classroom? So again, I went in as a parent, so I wasn't necessarily a teacher in that regard, but I had teaching background and knew that this was a pretty popular thing. But this is way before the pandemic. So really looking at what has happened since then and all the stress of the pandemic and all sorts of whatnot, really thinking about that. And so the session that I have been talking about really dives into some of that research and really dives into asking that question: what if we took care of ourselves as well as we do of our children? So we really dive into what can we collectively do, and what can we to move these mountains. And oftentimes, which I love this conference, is that self-care is so key, especially for educators. So just checking to see if there's any chat. So again, talking a little bit about habits and how we can create habits, especially around mindfulness, but just opening up the door and going outside can have a huge change in that. So we kind of, in the workshop, we talk about habits, creating habits on top of habits, and then we talk about the 6 R's, and I can talk very briefly about those. The first R being reflect, and really thinking about how we can reflect, and using journals and meditation and water, actually. So I have a wonderful meditation practice. I'm not so good at just sort of sitting there, because my mind will go wild and thinking about all the things I have to do. But if I have a meditation that I follow. Therefore, the meditation sort of has a theme, and it's wonderful. It's actually wonderful. And they're very short. There can be 5 minutes, they can be 10 minutes, they can be 15 minutes, but really taking that meditation in the membership, we have member missions, and one of the missions was to actually create a sit spot out in somewhere outside. And we created, it was a very difficult mission because really taking that time to pause, to and that was really neat to do outside as and to incorporate that with nature. What I have found when I am in my own outdoor classroom, I run a program called the Secret Gardens, and when I am in that outdoor space, it's incredible actually. And the birds are singing, all these different animals are running around. So it's really, I find that on the days that I'm teaching in the morning and that I run parent-child nature classes, when I am running those classes, I am the most relaxed because I have the chorus of the birds and everything around me. So it's truly something that is called forest bathing, and that is something that's very, very easy to incorporate into your world. All you have to do is open the door, find some green in your area, even if you live in the city. But one of the first R's is to reflect. Again, we talked about that journal writing and the meditation and drinking water. The second one is reframe, and really thinking about how we can reframe. We get these sort of negative self-talk, uh, and we get exhausted. It's just par for the course. So really thinking about those pieces. So practicing daily affirmations to really invite daily affirmations. One of the things I have on my desk here is I have daily affirmations that are in this little, I just picked this up at CVS. It's really wonderful. But there are sort of daily affirmations that just sort of keep me going. So that is another fun way to do it as well. So really thinking about that, um, thinking about getting curious about your phone and how much time you're spending on your phone. Are you scrolling? I find actually when I'm exhausted, when I should be going outside and sitting in my sit spot, sometimes I will catch myself on my phone, just mindlessly doing just not even really doing anything. So really paying attention to that, because that can really affect your mindfulness. The next one we talked about in the workshop, we went again in the workshop, we did a lot of deep diving. And this one is to refocus. So again, if you catch yourself going one way or another way, sometimes it's oftentimes you might need to refocus. And one of the ways of doing that is to go outside and just retune your senses. So we have the smell, we have the sight, we have the hearing, all of that, like I was just saying earlier, in terms of being outdoors and just listening to the birds. It's so incredibly soothing. Sometimes you can put a water fountain in your bird bath, which we did. And it's just the sound of it is beautiful. So, really thinking about different ways that you can find mindfulness in this regard. It's so important to incorporate this not only or incorporate into our lives first, so therefore we can transform and translate that into our children's lives and the children that we're teaching and so on and so forth. So really thinking about that as well. And so another one is what I love doing is taking walks out in nature and uh, just chatting. This is actually the best time when I go out and take a walk with my son or my daughter, my husband, or someone in my family. We're big, big walkers, and it's a wonderful time because you're not so focused on each other, but you just walk. And so we just talk and chat without any pressure whatsoever, and we're getting exercise. Therefore, the body's moving and it's getting relaxed, and that's all part of this connectedness. We're connecting with ourselves, we're connecting with other people. I know there were some other workshops as well here that are talking about the importance of connecting with others and what happens if you're an introvert, that type of thing. So it's I think there's extroverts and introverts, and then there's I forget the name of it when they're both. So really thinking about where you fall on that spectrum. And again, if you are that introvert, how can you pull yourself out of that and invite someone out on a walk? Invite someone out to do nature walk with you, or explore a different area, that type of thing. All this is going to enhance, and then to all while you're doing this, I can't recommend enough that you incorporate that into your teaching, and incorporate that lifestyle, that philosophy, that connectedness into your outdoor classroom, and then even consider opening or creating an outdoor classroom. And it doesn't necessarily have to be this fancy big huge thing, and that's a lot of what we talk about at outdoorclassrooms.com. It can just be that you create a new habit, you start taking your kids outdoors, you start sort of walking the talk, so to speak. And you don't have to keep yes, they do go out for a recess and that type of things, but what if you took them out at a different time and took them to a different part of the school outdoors and just read a story? What if you took them out? I mean, a lot of schools had to do this during the pandemic, and sadly, the educators are going back indoors. But really think about the golden nuggets that came out of the pandemic, when we were forced to be outdoors, and all of that. So that's sort of what we talk about at Outdoor Classrooms. We talk a lot about these theories. We look at a lot of different programs. I also run a podcast called Outdoor Classrooms Podcast, where I'm interviewing fabulous educators from all over the world that have great outdoor classrooms. And it's exciting. It's exciting. And then on Tuesdays, those are the interviews. And on Thursdays, I usually have a solo episode, which will pull from that information. So the information of that week. So it could be whatever it might be. So it's very exciting. You can go find that on anywhere you listen to podcasts. So that's called Outdoor Classrooms Podcast. So we talked also about another element of reconnecting, finding connection, and it is in the reconnect. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing any questions. Okay, I think I'm all set with that. So yeah, reconnect, and this is interesting because I somewhat identify as a introvert, and one of the goals that I have in my secret gardens, we call it the Secret Gardens, and it's not a full-fledged big program, but it's a parent-child program, nature classes. And so one of the things that I have found incredibly exciting was this concept of reconnecting. But reconnecting, so we've opened up the gardens, we've created an outdoor classroom. It's a demonstration outdoor classroom. And it's been a fabulous experience for me, but it's also been wonderful for creating community. And what I love, love, love about it is it's enabled me to create a space where I can also invite families to come to family events. And I really wanted to do this because I wanted to sort of broaden the community and find this connection. So it wasn't just that I was serving the children and their parents or their caregivers. I wanted to open it up. So we had an art show, And it was the first art show. It was inspired by actually many of the members in our circle community. They had done art shows, and I was wowed by them. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do an art show. So I did an art show. It was all outdoors, all in the gardens, the secret gardens, our outdoor classroom. And I didn't think anybody was going to come. So we made the invitations. I had all the art that I was going to display around, but I was so nervous that I wasn't going to have anybody joining us. So I said, "Oh, if you have grandparents that are in the area, bring them along." And it was a very short event, but we had watermelon. We had my husband plays fingerstyle guitar. So we had him outside playing, and it was wonderful. And it turned out to be this incredible intergenerational event that was all outdoors, all featuring the all nature-based art outdoors. And everybody was so relaxed. We served watermelon. I asked one of the parents, I said, what's a nice, healthy thing to serve? And she says, oh, watermelon's great. So they ate the watermelon and they just put the cores in the compost bin. It was very easy. And it was a little over an hour. That's all it needed to be. Within that time, we had this wonderful connection, not only with each other, we had the connection with the community, we had the connection with nature. It was wonderful. So after that, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to have 4 family events a year, one per season. So one of our winter family event, we did one other one, which was the lantern walk, which was absolutely amazing, and that was really fun. And we did, and then I will have 2 others. I'll have a spring fling and a fall family fest or something like that. So, but all out in the garden, all celebrating nature, all inspiring community. So, really thinking of different ways to do that. So, I invite you to think about that as well, and to really think about doing all these things outdoors. So, there is a saying, whatever you can do indoors, you can do outdoors. So, really thinking about that as well. So here we go. Our next one we talked about in our workshop was reveal. And a lot of that was, even revealing the art. So, but what does that mean? So, I kind of see reveal as more of a celebration of being in nature and being outdoors. And again, we just talked about that creating of that community, but there has to be a reason why people gather and come together. So again, it's that reveal, but it can also be a personal reveal of yourself in terms of really thinking about how that reconnectedness with nature is going to ultimately enhance your well-being. And so it might be that you actually lose weight, or you might change what you're eating, or you might whatever that might be. But the big reveal is that you are feeling calmer, more like yourself. You're not stressed. I bumped into a neighbor the other day, and her work was she said it was just so horrible that it makes her just feel tense, and you could feel that energy. So really thinking about the energy that we're projecting into the world and how that is manifesting our relationships, or not manifesting, and how that is affecting the kids that we're working with, that we're teaching. So really thinking about all those pieces and elements and whatnot. So I like to think of it as the reveal. It can be a twofold, that you can reveal your own um, inner self that you have connected with, especially with nature. And I can't. It's incredible that how much. Nature and that are being outdoors, all the research. So we talk a lot about that in the workshop, and about the research that's been happening. Um, and how that affects our bodies and how that affects our children, how that affects learning in terms of playful learning. So, really thinking about all of that. And the other one is we talk about is reigniting. Um, I have a picture on the um, in the workshop that is of an old bike versus a brand new, sparkly, fun bike with big tires and whatnot. So it's taking that piece of you and and using nature as a tool to find that connectedness, to find to really practice those random acts of kindness. So yeah, and I just want to make sure that yeah. So uh, that is the random acts of kindness. So again, I was listening to some other workshops, and they were talking about different things as well. So I'm just looking at some of the questions here. I finally found them. So, what is your top mindfulness tip? That is a great question. Top mindfulness tip is, I would say, the sit spot. I would say going outside, finding a space in your garden. If you have a garden, if you don't have a garden, go to a public space and make that your space. But I would bring a cup of tea or something where you can just sit and be. It's hard to do. I tried it. It's hard to do. So that would be my number one. Someone said, I love the art of forest bathing. Ambivert, there's the word. That's it. That's it. So yes, one of my biggest tips is to go ahead and talk about the sit spot. And I can't remember if I talked about that in the workshop itself, but I would definitely highly recommend finding a spot where you can, even if you want to take a journal and journal outside, but being outside, there's nothing better. And sometimes they say in there's no such thing as bad weather, or it's actually where's my book? The Open Air Life. It was a wonderful book, and it talks all about different topics in terms of mindfulness and connecting with nature. And she talks about even the best time of day to take a walk. I think it's early in the morning when the birds are really in orchestra, and I have another question here. What is an outdoor classroom? That's a great question. So, you might be thinking, what is an outdoor classroom? So, an outdoor classrooms has many different components, which is some are in the forest. Some we have forest schools where they take their classes and they're actually in the forest. Many outdoor classrooms will have, for young children, they have mud kitchens, they have water walls, they have a gathering space area. And so basically it's everything that you can do indoors, you're taking it outdoors. And again, in the like a mud kitchen, there's a lot of math and different components. So you're using nature as the basis of teaching. And it's been a huge transformation as people are getting on the same page in reference to teaching outdoors because of the pandemic. So people are like, okay, now I have this outdoor space. What do I do once I get out there? So basically, here at Outdoor Classrooms, we help you with that. And part of this journey has been realizing all of the mindfulness that comes with it, not only for ourselves as educators, but also for the children. So we talk about in the workshop all this research that's happening around forest bathing, but you don't necessarily have to have a huge forest just to get the benefits of being outdoors. So there we have, and again, you can go to the Outdoor Classrooms podcast. There's many different. There's one podcast that's why don't we go outside anymore, and really talks about the research. That's a place where you can go and find more interesting facts. Again, it's really taking your classroom outdoors, and there's many different avenues and venues that ways to do it. And so we at Outdoor Classrooms kind of show you the different elements that you can use. The mud kitchen I mentioned is the most favorite because it's the most sensorial for children. And then talk about connectedness. It's a wonderful way for them to feel connected. So I'm just looking at other questions and comments. I love the art of forest bathing. So that is amazing. There's been, again, so much research on just that. And it's been exciting. It's been really, really exciting. For me, I've been doing this for years and years and years. And to see the transformation over the years of the amount of outdoor classrooms and forest schools that are happening, they blossomed in the UK and Europe, all over the place, in Scandinavia. But here, we're working on it. We're working on it, but it is growing. It's a growing phenomenon, and we would love to help you figure out what that is and how we can help you with that here at Outdoor Classrooms. I just want to see if there's any other questions or thoughts. Forest bathing, ambivert, there it is. So thinking about, making those connections with your communities and thinking about how you can make those connections outdoors, thinking about different elements of an outdoor classroom. Again, I'm just thinking about, we have our secret gardens here. One of the spaces, and each space is defined. And one of the spaces is a makerspace garden where we have a huge water wall and a water contraption that we've made. And it's wonderful. And all the different type, we have a pulley. So all the different math elements that come with it is wonderful. So that's more about outdoor classrooms and what we do and what an outdoor classroom is. We have a fishing bridge, kids fish for letters and numbers with magnets and sticks. And we have an art area, the mud kitchen, compost, sunflower house. So that's all put together in one secret gardens is what we call it. And that's how we call it our demonstration garden. So there is so much excitement in this field. And again, the connectedness, it's wonderful to use the outdoors as a tool for yourself to really find that connectedness. And there's lots and lots of talk and movement and energy around bringing mindfulness into the classroom for children, because children today are suffering. They really are. They're stressed. They're young. They're obese. They're not getting enough exercise. They're not getting enough outside because they're so much in front of their screens. So really thinking about the importance of going through this connectedness for ourselves first, really taking ourselves outdoors and just sitting. That's my biggest tip, is to find a sit spot and try it for 5 days, and try it for a certain amount of time. At the end of the workshop, we talked about, I'm very big on, if you've taken any of my workshops, I'm very big on leaving with making sure that you're not just listening to the workshop, but actually taking action. So my tip in taking action would be to get a 5-minute fix. So again, going to that sit spot, if you have spending 5 minutes outdoors, you could bring a cup of tea, but make it a habit. Make it go at the same time every day. It could be before work. It could be after work. It could be in the middle of work if you find a place at work. Really thinking about those elements, and then thinking about what's your lead domino. What's that first thing that you're going to do? Do you want to take your class outside? Is this going to be focused on you? What's your intention? So that's exciting. I would love to answer any other thoughts or questions. I thank you all. This has been really exciting. I hope, again, if you are interested in outdoorclassrooms.com, We are getting a brand new website in the coming hours, actually. So the website address is www.outdoor-classrooms.com, and would love to have you join us. We have a free newsletter that goes out weekly. Again, we have the free podcast, Outdoor Classrooms podcast, and there's just so much resources there if if you're interested in learning more about outdoor classrooms. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for all that you do to reconnect children with nature and yourselves with nature, actually. And I hope you find. Again, I would love to learn what's working for you, and love you to join our community. Can you post a link to your site? Absolutely. Let's see if I can do that. Let's see. Oh,